Welcome to Open Door. My guest is Savon Bass, and she is someone who I have known of for quite some time, but she just shared with me that this is the first time that she's actually done this. So I'm very honored to have the privilege of having this kind of a conversation with you. So welcome to Open Door.
Thank you.
So what we do with Open Door is we basically give folks an opportunity to tell their stories. I've been privileged to have conversations with folks like A.J. Jamal and Shirley Cook. I'm trying to remember who we had on last weekend. I know it was a great interview. Oh, yeah, it was the Boogeyman, Anthony Rucker, who was six-time champion at Showtime at the Apollo Amateur Night, which is an accomplishment in and of itself. But today we are talking with Savon Bass. Now, how I know Savon Bass is because she's a singer and because I'm a musician and because there have been a couple of times that we've had an opportunity to work together. So we're going to talk about the whole music piece. But before we get to the music piece, we're going to get to Savon the person. So one thing that I do know about you is that you have a very famous brother. And I'm just assuming that there's a lot of talent in your family. So talk about your upbringing. Are you a native Clevelander?
No. Well, actually, I was born in Cleveland. I come from a family of 10. And yes, Billy is one of my brothers. But unfortunately, we were all separated at birth. I was raised in Elyria, Ohio. We were raised in foster care. I was raised in foster care, so we didn't grow up together. And moving along, I lived in Elyria up until I was about maybe 18. That's when I came to Cleveland. So during those years, and I was, like I said, I was there in foster care, and I just like to say, you know, what led me into wanting to be in the entertainment world is because I just grew up with very low self-esteem, and you know, people telling you what you can't do, and you would never amount to being anything. So, but I knew I had a desire to sing. From the time I was, I'd say 2 years old, I remember standing up in the crib. Every time this record would come on, the da 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 tequila. And I would just bounce up and down singing tequila. So I knew then that I was going to be a singer. So, and that's where it all began.
That's interesting. So you actually have memory of you at the age of 2?
I sure do. I sure do.
Wow. That's amazing. So you spent your formative years in Elyria, and you were in a foster family. To talk about what that experience was like for you, if it's not too painful.
It is very painful because it was a very, they were very abusive. Mm-hmm. Abusive, mentally, physically. And I won't go any further than that.
Okay. Well, I don't want to push you into that subject matter, but I do think that it's important for people to understand the dynamic of those kinds of families. And it's not necessarily the same for everyone who goes through that experience, but you know, we've seen so many movies about folks who had that experience. And, you know, the tragedy is that, you know, children get abandoned the way that they do us sometimes, and they spend the rest of their lives, you know, dealing with the pain that comes from that. You know, I know people who don't really know their parents. And then I know people who know who a parent is, but have never actually had any contact with that parent. And, you know, the parent or the person who brought someone into this world and walks away from them, so many times they have no idea of what pain it causes someone to be walked away from, to be abandoned. And, you know, they at some point in their lives have to pay for what they did to that person. So I applaud you for having the courage to speak about that and trust. I fully empathize and sympathize with you on that subject matter. So let's fast forward. You're 18 years old, you leave Elyria, and then you come to Cleveland, and you know that singing is in you. So what happens once you get to Cleveland?
Well, I did have an opportunity to meet our biological mom, and I'm very thankful that I did, because my mom was a wonderful mother, and the reasons why we were placed had nothing to do with, you know, not being wanted by our parents. So, and that was refreshing to know, because, you know, I was led to believe that that was the reason why, you know, I was in the foster system. So I just wanted to make a note of that.
Okay.
And my mother was a very loving Christian woman that eventually instilled a lot of good morals and values that was taken away, you know, because there was just, my mental state, you know, growing up was, you know, just very delicate, and, you know, one where I would just cry, just, like I said, no self-esteem, just cry all the time, you know, berated by the kids and, you know, all sorts of things. But anyway, moving on, came home to Cleveland, and I just knew that I wanted to sing, but didn't know how to get involved in it until someone suggested to me to enter a pageant. And there was the Miss Black Cleveland that I entered. And it's kind of funny, because I was just too bashful to even think about being on stage. But, you know, I went on to do it. And when it came to the part where you had to perform a talent, I was going to sing, but I walked on stage and I looked at the audience, and nothing came out of my mouth. So, moving on from that, another pageant came up. It was the Miss Black Cleveland. And this time, I actually won that pageant, the Miss Black Cleveland. And I did sing a song. So from there, I went to Karamu. Someone had mentioned Karamu to me at that time. And this was the time when Mayor Perk was in office. You know, that's a long time ago. You remember Mayor Perk?
No, we're not going to talk about how long ago that was. I don't even know if I was in Cleveland when Perk was mayor. I knew him as a judge, but yes, continue.
Yeah, well, he was in office. But Karamu, he initiated a program called CETA, which was an Employment and Training Act for the artists, where they actually employed about 10 artists, and I was one of them. And we trained and performed at the same time, and, you know, was compensated at that particular time.
Hold up. Wait, hold up. Stop the presses. Are you telling me that at some point the city of Cleveland was actually giving financial support to artists?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to make that clear. Okay, let's continue.
Yes, there was a time.
Okay.
And I became a part of that group. And it was there that I began to perform on stage, in theater. I've done several plays there. One of the plays that sticks out in my mind was Spell Number 7, which was, it was written by Indosaki Shane and directed by Bill Cobbs. And my role was the bourbon-sipping Sue Jean. And behind that, I received the Kara Award for leading female actress. And so from there, I went on to other productions. I did Langston with James Pickens. Everyone should know who James Pickens is. He moved on to L.A. He's now on Grey's Anatomy and a host of other productions. And I did a play by the name of Generations, which was directed by the late
Ruby Dee?
Yes, Ruby Dee, I'm sorry. Yes, so that's where all of my theater experience came from, basically Karamu.
Okay. What we're going to do right now is we're going to take a quick break. But before we go to break and bring you back, tell me what the name of the song was that you sang when you won that second pageant that you entered in.
You know what, to this day, I can't recall.
You can't remember the song. Okay. We'll charge it to your head and not your heart, as they say.
Exactly.
All right. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Savon Bass. She moved from Elyria to Cleveland at the age of 18, and she jumped in feet first and ended up on a Karamu stage with some very prominent folks like Bill Cobbs, James Pickens, and Ruby Dee. We're going to hear more about that when we return. We'll be right back. 95.9 FM, WOVU, a Burton-Bell Carr community radio station. We'll be right back.
What can you do in the battle against COVID-19? Your first task, wear a mask, protect yourself and others. Armor up, armor up. Give those hands a 20-second shower with soap and water. Armor up, armor up. Give others space 6 feet just in case. Armor up, armor up. Get good nutrition, ingest for digestion. Armor up, armor up. Vitamin C, D3, and more. Armor up, armor up. Elderberries, zinc, and echinacea from the store. Armor up, armor up. Get some fresh air. Go climb some stairs. Armor up, armor up. Let go of stress. Make sure you rest. Armor up, armor up. Your breath is the key to life. Strengthen your immune system, follow the guidelines, and win the battle against COVID-19. Armor up, armor up.
We're back on Open Door with Savon Bass. She is a singer and an actress and a few other things that we may find out about before this hour concludes. So let's talk about that Karamu experience a little bit further, because, you know, you've mentioned some names that folks may or may not be familiar with. So let's refresh memories. People may be familiar with Bill Cobbs because of the role that he had in New Jack City. He was the older guy who took Nino Brown down. And then you spoke of James Pickens, who had that starring role on Grey's Anatomy and has done so many other things, but he's a Karamu alum. And then perhaps the most famous of all, Ruby Dee. What was it like for you to be directed by Ruby Dee?
That was an awesome experience because she was just so comfortable to be around, and her aura was just it was like a breath of fresh air. She was just an awesome person.
Okay, and talk about the play that you were in. What was your role in it, and what was it about?
Spell number 7 was, well, my role was, like I said, the bourbon-sipping Sue Jean, who always wanted to have a baby named myself. But all of these things she visualized in her mind, and she actually gave birth to a child on stage, but all of this was just acted out, but it was in her mind. And it was very challenging.
Okay. At that point, had you been a mother?
No.
Okay. So you really had to pull upon your acting prowess to to make that convincing.
And I don't know where it came from, but but of course I was coached.
Okay.
Hello?
All right. And
Okay.
Bill Cobbs, we know him as an actor, but I've never known that he was a director. What was that experience like?
I have to say he was very straight. He was straight and to the point. I mean, you know, he was a no-nonsense director. And when he asked you to do something, I mean, you know, he expected you to be very precise with it. He was a great person to work with, and I've learned a lot from him.
Okay. And Mr. Pickens, James Pickens, again, we know him as an actor. He directed the play that you were in?
No, he didn't direct it.
Okay. But
no, we were both in Langston together.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, Langston was about the person, Langston Hughes, who grew up in Cleveland and eventually moved to New York and was part of the Harlem Renaissance and all of that good stuff. What are your recollections of that particular production?
Well, I remember James and I performing a song together. I recall reciting a poem which I can't remember the name of the piece that I did.
Can you remember the poem?
No, I don't.
Okay. I've always found it fascinating that people can memorize all those lines. You know, when you're in a performance, a theatrical performance, sometimes you might have a monologue that might go on for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, or maybe even longer. And then the other part of it is not only do you remember your lines, but if you're acting with someone else, you have to remember their lines too, so that you know the in cue and the out cue and all that other kind of stuff. What was it like for you to challenge your brain to such a great extent?
Oh, it was very challenging because, like I said, I had just started out, but then, you know, I was younger as well. and I needed a lot of coaching. But eventually, it became like second nature. And by the way, I do remember the poem that I did. It was a piece by Claude McKay. It was "If We Must Die."
Yes. Yes. That's a poem that I believe Michelle Indigo included in one of her songs, and it was the Cookie, the anthropological mixtape. She quoted Claude McKay on that CD, in one of the songs that she did very prominently in one of those songs. It's a very powerful poem too. Are there any other works from that play or anything else that left an impression on you, since we're talking about Langston Hughes?
What happened? There was Harlem. What happens to a dream deferred?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So let's fast forward. You were privileged to be involved in these theatrical productions. Where did you go from there in terms of music and theater?
Well, moving forward, I knew I wanted to sing, and we did a play, the Karamu Godspell. So that was actually my first musical that I had the opportunity to do. And then from there, I decided that I wanted to put a band together out of nowhere. So I came up with a band called Bass and Company. And this was during the time that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had just opened. And in that band, I had 3 male vocalists, Art Blakey of the Hesitations being one of the male vocalists. And we actually performed at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, opening up for Jerry Butler.
Wow. And
in that band, our MD and drummer was Noah King, which you probably know. Mm-hmm. Noah, he went on to Las Vegas. And we're in contact with each other just about every day. But he was kind of like my go-to person. And because I had expressed to him that I wanted to have a band. And that was my first opportunity to really get out to sing.
Okay.
And from there, I joined a group called the Sounds of the 60s, which comprised of 3 females and 3 male vocalists. And we did music from the 60s. That was exciting. And from there, we went on to, I ended up performing for about 4 years with a wedding band called North Shore, led by Steve Samuel.
Okay.
And shall I go on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from there, I mean, I'm gaining all of this experience from being a band leader, as well as performing with other band leaders. And then I decided, well, one of my brothers had kind of suggested to me, said, well, hey, why don't you sing jazz? I have never thought about jazz. So I started listening to jazz, and I found that I enjoyed listening to it, and I ended up forming a band called Indigo, which I still perform with. although the band members have changed, but Indigo is still going strong.
Okay. We have just a few minutes before we take our next break, but I want to get back to you being a band leader and talk about, some of the challenges that are involved in having a unit like that. What was it like for you to create your own band, and what kinds of challenges did you face in the process?
At one point, I actually wanted to not do it because you have to deal with a lot of personalities and a lot of idiosyncrasies but because I'm a very patient person and I'm relentless when it comes to carrying out projects. I persist in making things happen, but and it's not easy at all, especially when you're with me being a female and having male vocalists. Well, a male band, but it's it's been very challenging.
Yes. Well,
and it hasn't stopped.
Right.
It hasn't stopped because I'm still a band leader.
Yeah, you're still managing those challenges. I get it. I get it. And
yes.
And I can totally relate being a band leader myself. You do have to deal with all the idiosyncrasies and all the ego issues. And, sometimes you feel more like a mother or father than you do, a band leader. But, that's just part of human intersectionality, so to speak. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Savon Bass, and we're talking about a musical career that has included stints in her very first band, Bass and Company, and then the Sounds of the 60s, and then North Shore, the Wedding Band, and then finally the new iteration, or the latest iteration, and that is Indigo. We're going to talk a bit more about that when we return. You're listening to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson. This is FM 95.9 WOVU, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. Back in a minute.
This program is brought to you by Computer Love. Are you ready to get your digital life together? Well, PCs for People is where you need to be. A 501c3 nonprofit organization located at 3126 St. Clair Avenue, PCs for People has desktop computers, laptop computers, and free classes to get you in the mood for some computer love. Call 216-930-5741 or visit pcsforpeople.org. That's 216-930-5741 or visit pcsforpeople.org. On behalf of WOVU 95.9, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station, we extend a special thanks to PCs for People for their support.
We are WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United. United to enhance our community. United to be a beacon of hope. United to empower our community. WOVU 95.9. Our Voices United.
We're back on Open Door with Savon Bass, the leader of Bass and Company from years gone by, the Sounds of the 60s. She was in a wedding band called North Shore, and now she has her own unit called Indigo. And we were just talking about the challenges involved in managing and being the band leader, and we both agree that it is quite a challenge, but in the long run, it's worth it. So talk about this unit that you have, Indigo. What kinds of music are you doing, and who you're working with? What's it looking like right now?
Well, I have, and I've worked with several great musicians. Greg Harrison, that plays guitar. I've worked with Kevin Muhammad, the bassist. I've worked with Byron Jones, the drummer. Now, I'm working with a bassist by the name of Max Hyde Perry. He just graduated from Cleveland State. And Byron Jones is my continued drummer. And I'm also working with a new guitarist by the name of Stacy Kelly. And I also have a female sax player by the name of Tanya Settles.
Okay.
And I look for...
I was just saying, okay, I'm hearing you.
And I look for... We haven't... I think the last thing that we did was last summer. So we haven't really been... we communicate with one another, and we have Zoom meetings, but we're not doing anything right now. But we are prepared to do something in March. Okay.
For whatever reason, the name Tra-La-Las kind of sticks in my mind, and you didn't mention them. Whatever happened with the Tra-La-Las?
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to mention them as well. That was the first female group that I formed. We did mostly Motown music. And from there, we had the opportunity to, we performed at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a host of other places. But one of the venues that was really exciting, we had the opportunity to perform for the first R&B Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which was directed by Lamont Showboat Robinson, formerly of the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, that's my cousin, right?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
I'm just kidding. I claim all my famous Robinson cousins. So. I got a whole bunch of them. So.
Oh, you joke. Yeah. But, which was held at Cleveland State at the Wagem Auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the first year was 2004. And it's a really awesome event. But anyway, the Tra-La-Las, that was the first time we actually performed.
Oh, that was your first time?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay.
And then we went on to do a host of other things. No, I take it back. No, we did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame first.
Okay.
Yeah. And the year after that, I was asked to actually co-host the second R&B Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And that was exciting because it was held in Canton, Ohio. And a lot of noteworthy artists, were inducted both years. And now he basically has moved it to Detroit.
Okay. Well, I actually remember that because I was there.
And I think I remember seeing you,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think that day I met Gene Chandler. I think
Yeah.
I took a picture with Chubby Checker. Uh, yeah,
I
that
booked
was
too.
yeah. How long ago was that? Was that like 2006 or so?
Yeah, 2005.
Okay, 2005. So wow, that was
Yeah,
wow. How time flies. Seems
I
like it
know.
was just yesterday.
Yeah, and I actually have the photos where I presented them with their, um, their award, which was, a large record. They were really nice.
Mm-hmm.
In color, yeah.
Yes. So you say that Lamont has moved the R&B Hall of Fame activities and platform to Detroit?
Yes, they've been doing it for the past, every year up until now. They didn't do it last year.
Okay. So
And the word is that they will be actually building the R&B Hall of Fame building in Augusta, Georgia, because that's what his goal has been, to actually find a building for the Hall of Fame, the R&B Hall of Fame.
why there instead of somewhere like Detroit?
Because I don't think Detroit, he's been trying, but they have not, I don't know, for some reason they won't fund it. And that was the same thing here in Cleveland. That's why he ended up going to Detroit.
Okay. Well, there's an African American music museum that just opened up, I believe, in Nashville. It's either
Nashville.
Yes. So,
Yes.
and I would have to think that it was something that, and I'm saying black folk, that we weren't completely in control of. So maybe some of the money came from other places, but it just seems odd, when you look at R&B music, it's almost as though, not saying that it was born in Detroit, but because of Motown and the influence that it had on the record industry, it just seems that it would be so much more appropriate to have it there. And then when you think about music, and I'm going back to the funk days and, Slave and Roger Troutman and Zapp and the Ohio Players and the Isley Brothers and Heat Wave and all those groups that came out of the Dayton, Cincinnati area, that we would have something in the state of Ohio that would serve that purpose.
Yeah. I would totally agree.
Okay. So you mentioned, you were doing sounds of the 60s and wedding band music and whatnot, and then you decided that you wanted to sing jazz. Could you talk about how it's different to sing jazz versus, what was tried and true for you in terms of R&B music and the Motown sound?
Jazz, I find jazz allowing me to be expressive, and jazz has a lot of feeling. Not that other music don't, but the songs that I have selected to do are songs that express me, my pain and my happiness, and songs that reflect me as a person.
Okay, so give us an idea of what's in your song list.
I do a song called Sister Moon that was written by Sting. Do a song. There's a song that's very expressive of me, of my life. It's called "Here's to Life." And speaking about that song, I allowed someone to hear me sing that song, and their question to me was, have you ever recorded? And, since in all of my years of singing, I have never recorded. And that has always been a desire, but I've never recorded. And now I have someone interested in coming to Cleveland from New York to record me this summer.
Okay. And we...
With that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We had a conversation about this last weekend, and you told me that you have actually been writing music.
Yes, I've written my first song, and I've collaborated with someone by the name of Juan Lively. They were the former lead vocalist of the Jazz Band, and I have collaborated with him. He's also coming to Cleveland this summer for the both of us to work on the song that I've written, and he's basically put the music behind the song.
Okay. So I know the voice is an instrument, but are you connected to any other instruments?
I play piano, very little, but I'm learning. I'm teaching myself more.
Okay. So you have the piano, or do you have keyboard?
Piano.
Oh, you have a piano.
I don't, but I know someone that does. So I have access.
Okay. All right. Well, it's very important. I'm a pianist, so I definitely appreciate having a piano rather than having a keyboard. And, so many of my musician friends, they play synthesizer keyboards, and, when I put my fingers on them, it just doesn't feel right. So the keyboard that I play has weighted keys that mimic piano action, so it's just a more comfortable fit for me. And another thing that I've been doing with my music is I'm actually playing bass now. So I know that there are traditional bassists that they take umbrage with the fact that I say that I play bass, but my piano allows me to split my keyboard and play bass with my left hand. So yes, I'm embracing it. I'm telling everybody, y'all, I play bass now. So get ready.
Oh, I want to hear this.
I want you. Yeah, I want you to hear it, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I want you to sing with me as I play bass and keys. You're listening to.
It would be my pleasure.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. My guest is Savon Bass. We'll be right back. Open Door Cleveland looks at the lives of people here and abroad, navigating the realms of art, culture, and society. I'm Vince Robinson. Tune in for inspired conversation with an array of guests and subject matter experts right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, Monday mornings at 11. Stream us live at WOVU.org or enjoy us live by purchasing the WOVU app from your favorite app store. Open Door Cleveland, Monday mornings at 11 on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burtonville Car Community Radio station.
WOVU 95.9 FM. Find us on Facebook. Like our page. Leave us a comment. We are WOVU 95.9, streaming live on WOVU.org.
Hey everybody, it's Chanel Angelique, the owner of the Bridal Beauty Salon.
Hi, this is Ashley Grayson, author of I Could Have Been Her.
Hi, my name is Nana Kwesi, an artist from Ghana.
Yo, this your boy OG Session. We down here at WOVU 95.9 FM, and it's going down, baby.
We're back on Open Door with my very special guest, Savon Bass, and I just let the cat out the bag. I'm issuing a call to all those cats out there that play upright and play those electric basses. Yeah, I play bass too. You know, so what happened with me, Savon, is that I started playing piano when I was 6 years old. At least that's my earliest memory. I can't go all the way back to the age of 2 like you do. But I can remember being 6 years old, and I actually wrote my very first song. Didn't have a name. I can still play it today. I played it better then than I do now, but I still remember how to play that song. But because I was always playing by myself, I had to play all the parts in the music. So, you know, I played bass on the piano, but I was just playing the keys down there at the lower register. But I've grown up playing bass on the piano all this time. So when I play with other musicians, I have to change my mode of playing, and instead of playing the single bass notes, I play chords with my left hand, and then I play chords and melody with my right hand. But now that I'm able to split my keyboard, I can execute those lower registered notes that sound like a bass instrument and have the same resonance and the same feel that an actual bass does have. So I'm just happy to have to graduated to that mode of playing. So yes, I would very much be interested in doing a set with you. And you know, as long as you ain't throwing them songs at me like Lush Life that have so many doggone changes, you know. You know what I'm saying.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you play some of the Motown songs, they have the same progressions, and as long as you know the formula, whether it be 4-5-1 or 2-5-1 or whatever, you can play those songs. And if you know what key you're in, you're good. It's just like the blues. If you know what key the blues are in and you follow the blues progression, you don't have to know the song to know the song. But when it comes to jazz and some of that Billy Strayhorn stuff, you got to have your eyes peeled to the paper to know what's coming next.
I have something for you.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to that. So yeah. So you mentioned a few songs that you're singing. Sister Moon, Here's to Life. You're writing music. Talk about some of the other music that's in your landscape right now.
Well, I am working on. I do have another band that I've put together, and we're called Reflections, which not a Motown band, but what we do, we pay tribute to the male and the female vocalists of the 60s and 70s. So there we do all kinds of selections from the 60s and 70s. And paying tribute to two notable artists from the 60s and 70s. I can't let the cat out of the bag just yet because we're working on it.
Okay.
So hopefully,
I said, okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, so hopefully, this summer we'll actually come out with that tribute to these two groups. And I might add, no one has basically done this as of yet. I put it like that.
Okay, so no one has done tribute music to the artist that you're mentioning, or?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why. And I'm probably completely wrong about that, and even if I'm right, you can't tell me. But for some reason, the name Sam Cooke keeps popping up in my head. But Sam
Really?
Cooke, yeah. I don't know why. Maybe it's that movie that everybody just saw that brought that song into the headspace of everyone. And he has a phenomenal story. People really need to know about that. But
yes, he does.
Yeah, but that's another subject. What was it about the music of the 60s that resonated so much with you?
Because my brother, Billy, when I came to Cleveland, Billy, well, he was, a DJ on MMS and Wixie 1260, but at the time that he was DJing, they had a store downtown called Jupiter's. And Billy he managed that record department. So he basically played a lot of soul, and music from that era. And I basically learned most of the music from that area, from that era, and just went on to really appreciate it. And I just, if I had been living in Detroit back in the 60s and 70s, I probably would have been with one of those groups, one of the female groups anyway. Mm-hmm. And I just adopted a great love for the music of the 60s and 70s, especially Motown.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about what could have happened, one of the realities of being a musician in Cleveland is that it is very difficult to do just that. Have you been able to eke out a living as a musician? And in light of what's going on right now, I'd have to say it's pretty challenging. I mean, you just told us moments ago that, you guys aren't gigging because of the present circumstances. So what do you do besides make music?
I'm a grandmother. I am a grandmother of 3 beautiful grandchildren, and I'm retired. I'm retired from RTA. I've worked. As much as I've performed, I've also worked all of my life, and I retired from RTA. And right now, I'm taking care of my 1-year-old and 2-year-old granddaughter and grandson, and it is a pleasure, and it is work.
Yes.
And I am rewarded.
Okay. So I seem to recall you having that employment, but I never really thought that much about it. Did you wear the uniform and all that good stuff?
I sure did, and I handled them big buses, too.
Okay, you were driving the bus.
Yes, I drove a bus for years, and as a matter of fact, my very first job was with the city of Cleveland as a radio dispatcher for Division of Streets.
Okay, wow.
From there, I went to the School Board of Education, and from the School Board of Education, I went to RTA.
Okay.
And during all those years, I was singing at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds...
Oh, I might add, also, while I was employed by the city of Cleveland, I went on the road with Dennis Edwards as one of his background vocalists.
How could you leave that out?
Oh, I know. It just popped up.
That's amazing. So then... I know Debonese Bird did the same thing. Were you all with him at the same time?
At one point, yes. But then we went on. I don't know what happened to Deborah after that, but it was someone else.
Okay. All right. So you talked about being a grandmother, and I don't want to get, the fact that you retired and let that get lost in our conversation, because for many it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to get up in the morning worried about, I got to put on this uniform and go to the garage and jump in that bus and everything. So, and you also mentioned being a grandmother, and I know that there's somebody in your life that has a relationship to Indigo. So why don't you give us the skinny on that?
With Indigo?
Mm-hmm.
You said someone that I...
Your daughter's name.
Oh, my daughter's name. India.
Okay.
And Hope.
All right. So the question in my mind is that did that have anything to do with the name that you chose for your band?
With Indigo? No.
Okay.
I chose Indigo because I am my favorite color is blue.
Okay.
And I love the color of indigo blue.
That simple.
Hmm?
I said it's that simple.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Okay. All right. And then you bore this idea of reflections. How recent of a phenomenon is that?
Actually, last year we performed in Kent as Reflections, but not. We basically, someone called me and said that they want to book us as a Motown group. So basically, that's where Reflections ended up. That's how Reflections started. And I put a Motown group together that consists of a male vocalist and female vocalist. And so I just wanted to carry it to another level, which is being done now.
Okay. Well, it seems like you have a lot going on right now. You're going to be working with Juan Lively and someone from New York to record, which is something that you've never done before.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're learning piano right now. I guess you're looking to take yourself to the next level. Do you ever expect to be one of those people who will play and sing at the same time?
I can see that.
Okay.
And if you visualize it, yes.
Okay.
That's how it all has happened in my life, because I visualize it, and I just push myself to do, what I visualize.
Okay. Well, I'll share with you as someone who plays, who sings very little. Every once in a while I get up the courage to sing and play at the same time. And I just really started doing that within the past year. But I got to tell you, playing and singing at the same time is not easy. I was watching an interview with Michelle Indigo a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about the reason that she doesn't play and sing at the same time. And I guess she just doesn't have the coordination to do that. So she'll always have another bassist. So when you watch her videos, you'll see that, she might start out playing bass, but then when she gets into singing that song, she takes her hands off the instrument and she just does the vocals. I can also tell you that it would probably be easier to play some of that Motown stuff than it would be to play some of those jazz tunes that you are singing and or learning right now. But it's a beautiful thing when you can get to that place in your musical ability. So I wish you all the success in the world with that. If folks are interested in reaching out to Savon Bass, if they might want to book Indigo or Reflections, how can they reach you?
Indigo has a website. Is indigojazzcleveland.com.
Okay, indigojazzcleveland.com.
Mm-hmm. And Reflections Entertainment 1. I'm sorry, Savon, Savon.com. That's www.sa-von.com.
Okay, very good. I did want to ask you about how Savon came about, but we only have a few seconds left, so we're going to leave that alone. No, we're out of time.
Okay.
So It'll have to be part 2. I know you're surprised at how quickly this went, but that's the way it goes when you do radio. So, Savon, I want to thank you so much for being my guest on Open Door, and good luck to you with all your musical pursuits in the future.
Thank you so much, Vince, for having me.
All right. And thank you for listening to Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your best day. Peace.